particular, something very, very unique about these. So, I don't know if you want, each one of you guys want one of these. If you guys can tell me something unique about these here. If you can pass one down. Something unique about those that also is relatable to these here. The truths of God have something very similar in common with all of those things that you have and these things right here.
Smell these. No, they don't smell the same. This one's got some paint on it.
They say truth.
They say truth. What else? What else would be the same here?
It's slanted.
Slanted. What does that mean?
It goes down at an angle like those two.
They go down on an angle. Yep, like that. Okay.
This one does also.
What kind of, what do we call that in engineering terms? It's a wedge?
A wedge. Okay. So when we talk about the truths of God, what we're really talking about is a spiritual wedge. That's really what it is. Because if you understand what a wedge does, then you understand what a spiritual truth does. A wedge is made to pry. You hammer it in, it pries two things apart. It makes them go farther and farther and farther apart.
It's like a hatchet or an axe head?
Yeah, a wedge. Yeah, just pushes two things apart. Right? Same with that. Obviously, it's a little different shape, but you get the general idea, right? So the truths of God have that effect on our lives. But you have to know what's being wedged apart. And so a truth of God is kind of like about this little demonstration here that this is the left side where you have doubt and falsehood, jealousy and anger, evil, me, selfishness, all of the left side junk over here. And this is us. And we're connected to this side. We very strongly want to operate in these things, very strongly. So that's what these rubber bands are. The rubber bands represent our love for these things. We run to these things in heart and mind. So we got some on this side too. And this side is God. Truth, love, righteousness, obedience to God, mercy, all of the things of the right side. We also say we love God, and we have some amount of love for God. So it's represented in this really thin rubber band right here. So the problem is that we have so much love for this stuff. We're so used to judgment, assumptions, jealousy, anger. We run to this stuff. This is where we really have a really serious relationship with this side, which is the absence of the light, which is the fullness of anger and doubt and falsehood and all of this evil junk. Our connection to it is so incredibly strong that this small, tiny amount of love for God is so puny that it's not strong enough to overcome how much we really want this stuff. Like in a normal, everyday amount of time, our heart and our mind spends a lot of time over here by itself. We just are going that way. And so because this is us here in the middle, a truth of God has a purpose. And the truth of God has a purpose of getting in there, getting right in there to try to wedge you and this stuff apart. That's what a truth of God does. When it goes into our heart and our mind, it's to war with our desire to hang out in jealousy or anger or bitterness or unforgiveness or the pointing finger. We want to be there, and the truth of God says, don't do that. Go the other way. Do not be doing those things. And so he keeps shoving these things in there, trying to get you to go away from this stuff. Now, the truths of God can be huge. Like someone can come along, like Norm comes along one day, and he's like, hey, Jamie, guess what? Here's the truth, man. Right? Right? And then we go, whoa, man, that truth is too hard. It's too hard. I don't want to know it. Get away. I don't want that. And the reason why we don't want that is because we want to stay connected to this side.
I want to be angry.
I want to be angry. I want to dwell on this selfishness. I want to do whatever I want to do.
I want to do what I want to do.
And you're the problem because you keep trying to separate me from what I really want, from what I really love. So truths of God come in many fashions, right? So a truth of God can come into someone like me to come and say, hey, I think you're going the wrong way. And you know, you may fight it, you may resist it, you may not want that truth. So you don't move at all. If you notice, you're not moving. There's no moving. It's like, hey, you know, you're going the wrong way. I'm trying to help you out. This truth is to help you come away from this left side, angry, bitter, awful place to the light, to joy and peace and goodness. This is me trying to help. But we don't necessarily always see it as help because this is targeting something specific. It is targeting our heart. Our heart is choosing this stuff. And that's where these truths hit. These truths hit us right in our heart. Oh man, our heart is so vulnerable. It's so tender. It's like, oh man, it's like you've assaulted my soul with that truth.
Yep.
That's kind of what it feels like generally, because it is our heart that wants to be bound to this side. So the reason why we're not moving is a couple reasons why we're not moving. Someone can come with a truth. God can say, hey, here's a truth right here. You know, and it's like not doing anything. It's nothing, not really changing anything. And is because this right here. This right here is the main problem right here. See that right there? The heart's resistance to move. This guy's heart is like rooted. It's dug in. It has made up its mind already that it is not going to come away from this. It is chosen. This is what I want. This
sit
is
in the closet for the rest of my life.
Yep. I'm going to dwell in this bitterness and anger and jealousy. I'm going to stay right here.
Yep.
And so as long as our heart is in that unwilling place, that we're unwilling to grow, we're unwilling to change, we're unwilling to go to God, as long as we have that, no amount of truths that come are actually going to get us away until we identify the problem of right there. Mm-hmm. So what battles that heart's resistance right there is faith. We say, well, I do believe a little. I could probably, back off a little bit. I could probably, let go a little bit. And could probably my heart's not going to be so sold out to this anger. It's like, okay, I'm going to back out a little bit. And God comes back around with some truths. He's like trying to get in there. He's like, my friend comes by and says, hey, let me help you out here. He moved a little bit, a little bit of movement. He's still not moving real far. And the truths just keep coming around. God's truths just keep coming around. And the truths keep saying, the goal here is you need to address that right there. Your faith is telling you that your heart's resistance to let go of jealousy or left side or anger or judgment, your mind's inability to come away from that stuff by choice, all of that stuff is rooted in your heart's resistance to change. You have to let go of that stuff by choice. And you say, so faith goes, okay, I could back up a little bit more. I could probably, do that. Probably let go a little bit more. I could let go of some resistance. Okay, God, maybe you're right. Maybe you have some truths up there, right? And so God gets more truths. He piles them up. He's like trying to get in there. He's like, all right. He's like, oh, a little chance to push you apart a little bit here. It's like, oh, there's a little bit of movement there. It's like, oh, okay, this is good. So people with truths come, and they're like, come on, man, there's some truth for you here. No, for the camera, it would be better to be like that. Right? So this is all happening all the time with the truths of God. that he is trying to get us away from these things in heart, in mind, in life, in actions, in words, and deeds. He's trying to separate us from this stuff. And the reason why is because he loves us. God's truth is his love to say, hey, you guys are destroying yourselves. You're going the wrong way. You're miserable because of your choices. You are actually destroying other people's lives because of what you want. Right? And so God's truths are trying to help us literally have the best life we can have, which is filled with love and goodness and people surrounding us that love us and care about us, and we're loving them, and we're all being honest and nice and good to each other. All of God's truths are trying to help us go there. But the darkness calls to us. It calls to our flesh. We still want it. Oh man, we want it so much. So faith is working on your heart's resistance. Eventually faith does its job. And you literally back out from all of this resistance. And you're like, okay, God, I'm not resisting you so much anymore. Okay, God, I surrender. I surrender. What is your will? What is your will? And in that moment, you know, people can come and say, hey, here's some big truths, you know? And then all of a sudden you go, whoa, I had a super huge right side revelation. It was huge. It was awesome. I went to the right. The Spirit of God came and touched me. It was amazing. It was amazing. And you stay there for a little while and then you just go right back. You go right back to this stuff after a week or two. And the reason why we keep going back, no matter how many truths God may give us, you know, he may stick a few of them in there, he may help us with a few of them, is that we don't stay exercising these truths for very long. We stay exercising them for a little while they're fresh, while the pain is there. You know, but once we feel okay a little bit, we forget about them and we just snap right back to the side. And the reason why this is like this is because the difference between the amount that we love God and the amount that we love this stuff is not the same. This has to change. We have to change this stuff. And so what God does is God says, okay, here's the Bible, here's a bunch of truths. Right? It's like, here's a truth, and here's a hammer. It's up to you now to pound that in there. And some people say, you know what, I have the truth, I know it, but I'm not going to really practice it. I'm not going to make it really go into my heart. I'm not going to really meditate on it until it becomes part of me. I'm acquiring a bunch of them. You know, I just want to hold on to them, but I don't really want to do them. And if you look at that, when you have all that truth, you have all the tools necessary to do the job, it still isn't finished. Nothing has changed. Just because you know all the truth, just because you have the tools, you have the saw and the hammer, you have everything needed to do and accomplish what you need to accomplish, nothing is going to happen if you don't choose to drive these truths of God into your heart, into your soul, into your mind, into your life. They have to get to the core of your being and stay there for there to be any real change. You have to put them to practice. Don't dwell in jealousy. Dwell in faith instead. Stop focusing on the problem. Focus on God and Christ instead. Feast on the truth. Falsehood. Get rid of falsehood. Get rid of that stuff. So falsehood plays into this equation also. So what happens is, when we put these things to practice, what happens is this. This is what happens. We go, okay, this is my life. I'm over on the left and God's over there. I believe, my faith tells me I need to drive the truth in. I need that. It's pretty obvious that I need that. I know I need that. I know I do. Oh, God, you gave me another truth. And you just keep putting them in there. And as you keep putting these truths in your heart, in your mind, and you keep practicing them, right? And this is like in you. This is like, I believe this. I'm exercising this. I'm doing it. I'm living it. As you keep doing this, that one has a problem with it. As you keep doing this, what happens is you and the left side get farther and farther apart. And you and the right side get closer and closer together. But the only way this works is if you maintain these truths. You're maintaining your heart being in the right place, your mind being in the right place, exercising faith, filling up on the Word. You're meditating on the truths. You are literally a vessel that is filling up on these right side things. So as you do this, what happens in the long run is eventually, what happens is you are so far on the right. So I'll flip these around because they're not quite thick enough for the demonstration. So let's put 3 like that. Let's put 4 like that. There we go. That one more. So what happens is this right here. So this is what ends up happening. You are really investing in these truths. You are doing them. You're living them. You're applying them. You're pounding them into your heart and your mind. You're like, okay, God, I got to keep this truth alive in me. I got to keep it in my heart. I got to stop doing this left side stuff and keep these truths active, right? The entire time that's happening, the falsehood is doing this. It's saying, you know what? I'm going to get you going the other way. You know, I'm going to try to get in there and mess with you because we want you going that way. So this is what the devil's work is. The devil is trying to fill you with falsehood and evils and doubt and fears and worries and all, trying to get you to operate in that. When you do operate in that side, then what happens is that side is now winning because you've got that stuff piling up inside of you and you're way on the left now and you're becoming hopeless. You're becoming desperate, discouraged,
guilty,
sad,
shamed, ashamed, weak spiritually. And so the devil's falsehoods, right? The devil's falsehoods work very much the same in the way that it's a wedge too. It's wedging you away from God. All of his untruths, all the selfish, evil things that are coming from Satan are trying to get us away from God, away from truth, away from going in the right direction. Now, the truth and a falsehood have something that is a bit elusive about them, is that a falsehood is a wedge between you and God. It's driving between you and God. But imagine if the wedge is a day long. So you don't notice the changes so much. It's like, I don't really notice that too much. If I close my eyes, it's hard to even tell that my fingers are going apart or not. It's hard to tell. And so falsehood and lies and the left side junk of Satan is kind of like this, where it gets in us and it's just sneaky. It's real sneaky. We did this little test with Lily earlier. She closed her eyes and she put her fingers together and I slid it one way and I asked her if she can tell if it's getting wider or narrower, and she couldn't tell any of the times. So it's very much like that. We can't really tell.
Let him try.
You want to try that?
We can't really tell with...
Try to close your eyes.
So if you sit over here...
Take your foot off. Stay there.
Okay, so if you sit down, close your eyes, right? Keep your eyes closed. Okay, put your hand up and just you're gonna put your fingers together like that, right? And I'm gonna put the wedge between there, and I need you to tell me if it's getting wider or if it's getting narrower. Okay? Well, you gotta let me get it in there first. Okay, so hold on. Let me
Open up, Jack.
right there. Okay, you ready? Is it getting wider or narrower?
Can't tell.
Take a guess.
Is that what wider or is that wider?
Wider.
Which way is wider? This way or this way?
First way.
This way is getting wider. And this is narrower. Yeah, you're right. You were able to tell. So, but with life, generally, we can't tell as we are subtly being pulled away from God, away from truth, away from righteousness. We can't generally tell because the changes are very, very subtle. So if the wedge is a day long, and it took an entire day to move just a little bit away from God, we really can't tell.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the way that the devil works. And the only way to counter that is if we on purpose are filling up on truths. You see, if we're doing it on purpose, we're filling up on truth. So, like, let's say we fill up on just one truth, right? And we just keep pounding them in there daily, right? It's a very small change, and we don't notice a huge right side change necessarily when we're just pounding one truth in. But that's not really what Christ is telling us to do. What Christ is telling us to do is to seek out all the truths. The truths of what your heart should be doing, the truths of what your mind should be doing, the truth of what your mouth should be doing, the truth of what all of your parts should be doing. And when you stack up all of those truths and you pound all of those truths in, the wedge is such a steep incline, it's such a dramatic change that it wedges you in the darkness apart dramatically. That's like putting that right in there, you know, and you jam it in there, and it has a big effect. It's a dramatic effect instead of just a tiny effect. And we get more right side rewards. We get more blessings. We get super joy, charismatic, God is so good kind of feelings. We're filled up with the right side. So it's very important to understand that the truths can seem almost insignificant by just practicing one little one. But as Lily said earlier, that each little truth that we practice does have an effect, because it gets us away from darkness at least a little bit. At least a little. Right? But there are a lot of truths. A lot of truths that our heart should and should not be doing. A lot of things that our mind should and should not be doing. There are lots of truths that we could practice all of those things and really get some distance on that left side and get filled up with the right side. Now, about our love for each side. If you want to know how that changes, I'm going to explain how that changes. We say, oh, we love God. I love God. Look, I love God. See, I love God. You'll see right there. See, my love for God is pulling me in this direction a little bit. It just is. You see that? That's the love right there. But unfortunately, I really love this side. I mean, I got rubber bands on both sides. I don't know if you can see that. But, I mean, there's rubber bands on this side and rubber bands on that side. I mean, there's like, I mean, there's a quite a pull there, right? We really love this stuff. So, what I mean by love, it doesn't mean I have warm, fuzzy feelings for this stuff. That's not what I mean. What I mean is we prefer it. Our hearts and our minds prefer to go there. They prefer to dwell in this stuff. They're choosing to dwell in this stuff. That's what I mean by love. They want it so badly they go there and hang out over here. That's what all this stuff is. So what changes what you love is when you actually seriously drive Christ's truths into your heart and your mind. You truly, sincerely are living them and practicing them. When you start to get closer and closer to this side, what happens is you become aware of what there is over here. You become very aware of the spiritual blessings and the rewards and the right side and all of that good stuff. You become so aware of that stuff that the contrast between what you were experiencing over here and what you're experiencing over here now is so dramatic that you say, I don't even know why I want to go over there. I'd rather be over here.
Yeah, I don't want to serve the devil. I want to serve God.
But your feelings in your heart, in your mind, start to prefer these things. You say, boy, I really like the right side. I don't
Because
really
he
like
shows
the left
up with super joy.
When you get that super joy reward, you know, because you've gone really far over there, you're like, whew, man, I don't want to go back over here. You know, you're like, let's put this right. You're like, you know, you go over here and you're like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to leave this place. I like this place too much. And you start to prefer that side in your heart, in your mind. You go, okay, I'd rather have my mind dwelling over here, honestly. I mean, because I like the rewards over here. I like these things. I don't really like these things so much. Even though part of me wants to go there, I'm starting to like these things less, and I'm liking these things more. And the only way we can have that change is by putting Christ's teachings and truths into practice, which gets us over here to experience that the Spirit of God is better. If we never do that, and we never get to that side to know that the Spirit of God is better, then it's all intellectual. It's just us over here saying, yeah, I love that side more. Sure, I love that side more, although I hang out over here. But yeah, I love it more. I love it more. It is a spiritual knowing when you have it.
Yeah.
When you have experienced the Spirit of God, you know that that is better than anything else.
Yep.
Right.
It isn't an intellectual.
I'm choosing where to place my rubber bands now, and I'm choosing wisely instead of foolishly.
Right.
When I feel an elastic band go on the other side, I'm like, that hurts. I don't want that.
That's right. And you say, you know what? I'm starting to love this side more.
That's right.
Starting to love this side more because, oh man, I really love the right side. Right? And so as we do this, what happens is our connection to this side strengthens. What that means is that when a left side situation comes up, when normally it was so easy to run that way, you'll see that it's not so easy to run that way. Because major pieces of your heart and your mind prefer this side. You're like, I don't want to go over there. I like being over here. I want to stay on the right side. It's like, whoa, I'm going to stay exercising forgiveness and mercy because I don't want to go to anger. I don't want to hang out in jealousy. I don't like that stuff. I don't want to be there. So that's what happens. Eventually, our love, our desire to be over here changes, and we want to be over here more. And so now when that's happening, and we're over here, and we're over here because of all of these truths that we're exercising, we have to keep maintaining these truths. Right? We keep exercising these things over and over again. That is what's keeping us over here, I mean away from here, and keeping our love changing to be on this side. And it all comes from practicing Christ's ways in heart and mind. Because if we do not do that, we never get a taste of Him. We never draw near enough to His Spirit to go, whoa, that's what everything I want right there. That's everything my soul and heart desires is right there. I don't even want the other side. I don't want that other stuff. So we have to be monitoring these things. Truths. And so these truths, God gives you a hammer and God gives you truth. You say, oh, I'll just put it in my pocket for right now. Right? Or we say, here's the truth. Okay, I'm going to work on this. This truth is the love of God that I hate because my mind does not want to do this. But I believe He's true. I believe He's right and I'm wrong. And I am going to work at it until my mind is in harmony with this truth. My mind is not going to be dwelling off in falsehoods and what ifs and assumptions and judgments and all this junk. I'm not gonna go there. Instead, I'm gonna let my mind dwell on the truth. The truth is, I don't know what's going on in that situation, and I'm okay with that. I don't need the left side. I don't need to make up some junk and be on the left. I don't need that. That's not gonna help me. I'd rather prefer to say, I don't know what's going on in that situation, and I'm gonna stay on the right. So each truth we have to choose to apply. Each truth we have to feast on. We're feeding on these things, and this is the way things work. Just like this. This is the spiritual way to actually draw very, very near to God. And all of this is done through faith. Faith is what removed this heart resistance so that you actually start moving towards Him and you're not rooted in sin. Faith is what made you start pounding these right side truths into your own heart and mind, wedging yourself away from sin, away from darkness, away from jealousy, away from going the wrong way. That's what it is. It's all faith. And in faith, as you exercise it, you draw near to God, and in drawing near to God, by applying Christ's truth, your love for God is magnified because your soul meets its Creator and says, you are what I want more than anything else. It is only done like this. This is the process. So, don't get so mad when somebody comes with one of these and a big hammer. Right? Because the goal is not to harm you. The goal is to help your heart and your mind get away from this stuff so that you can actually have light and joy and goodness and peace in your life. Right?
But really what we could be doing for other people is working on that heart's resistance instead of trying to shove that truth in there, right? Because once you help them with that heart resistance.
Yeah, right.
That's where
Just
we can
pounding this in there without helping them come away from the heart resistance, it's pretty useless. It's like, that's what you would call someone who's beating somebody over the head with the Bible. You're evil, you're going to hell, like the Westboro Baptists. I'm going to shove it down your throat. I'm going to make you believe. And it's really not really doing anything, honestly, as they're pounding away. So.
You know what would be good?